strategy paper, document that will lay out the Somali development goals, challenges, and financing requirements. In our efforts to achieve a prosperous society through the social development roadmap, we're working to establish policies, strategies, and regulations for the enhancement of affordable and accessible basic social services such as health, education, clean water, and electricity. In line with this roadmap, we are working on reinstating Somali pride and ownership in the rebuilding of our state through our flagship campaign, Isxilqaan, or simply put, a social mobilization. This program creates civic engagement and enhances the culture of volunteerism. For the first time in our national budget, we have tripled the budget for the delivery of basic social services such as health and education for our people. Mr. President, much of the progress listed above has been achieved with a minimum direct investment and partnership with the federal government of Somalia. Real partnership requires commitment, trust, mutual respect. Our past close to 2 years, we have listened carefully to our partners, and we continue to encourage an open and frank dialogue. We acknowledge and offer our appreciation to the UN agencies that continue to provide vital support and assistance to the Somali people. Somalia is a proud member of the United Nations since its independence in 1960 and is committed to the value and principles enshrined with the UN Charter. Moreover, the principles of the respect for the rule of law, freedom of expression and assembly, fairness, good governance, transparency, and due process are all enshrined in our provisional constitution. Ultimately, our leaders' decisions are subject to close scrutiny by our legislative and judiciary systems. This robust check and balance, while protecting the separation of powers, also ensure accountability and fairness. Recognizing that our government obtains legitimacy, first and foremost from its people, we have ensured that the public engagement is a critical pillar in our approach to governance. That's why this government enjoys the confidence and overwhelming support of the Somali people. Our youthful nation is finding its voice and establishing a new form of debate and active accountability through the public forums. We are proud of our active and vocal citizens, and we encourage their engagement with their government and elected officials. We finally believe that our legitimacy, our credibility, ultimately the impact of our decisions depend on the wishes and interests of our people. The Somali people want Somalia to have its rightful place in the community of nations, and with that aspect, a mutual respect and reciprocity, the Somali people demand that their government assume responsibility for its own decisions and shape their future. Somalia, leading international support, not international support leading Somalia. We therefore have a duty to reestablish Somalia's position in the world and to represent Somalia's interests actively in the world stage. For the pride and protection of the Somali people, we have a duty as their representative to give them a voice and represent their wishes and aspirations. Mr. President, allow me to address the issue at hand. Somalia distinguishes between the institutions that we are part of and individual conduct that has a detrimental effect on our fragile nations. Our government is taking Somalia to a new future. It's no more of transitional nature, but a sovereign nation with all its rights and privileges. We are battling against terrorism, clan mentalities, and corruptions. It's our expectation that the leadership of the UN will support that strategic picture. Mr. President, the member states here will agree the proscribed individuals from Al-Shabaab or other terrorist organizations sanctioned by this very institution cannot assume leadership positions without going through a stringent established rehabilitation program. During the last two federal electoral cycles, your representatives in Mogadishu have reiterated again and again that the candidature and potential election of any individual with violent extremism history would represent a regressive step. Therefore, while we strive to reestablish the rule of law and end of culture of impunity, we reject the criticism and attempt to rebrand renewed terrorism as an ice cream salesperson without redeeming themselves. Finally, as a maturing nation undergoing a challenging evolution, we do not shy away from the task ahead of us, as we are hard at work laying foundations for generations to come. The federal government of Somalia remains committed to our reform agenda to establish effective institutions that abide by our constitution, respect the human rights of all citizens, adhere to international humanitarian laws, and create forces that are accountable, transparent, and able to defend the people, sovereignty, territorial integrity, political independence, and unity of Somalia. In these endeavors, we continue to promote the respect of human rights and commit to fully investigate any forms of violations, abuses against our people. Mr. President, the challenge facing Somalia are complex, but gradually Somalia is taking the lead in addressing them through Somali-led initiative. As we fulfill our responsibility as a sovereign nation, I recall that speakers of this chamber often call for host government to act on their responsibility to govern and for the national solutions to challenges. Somalia has demonstrated a strong political will to do so. This should be applauded, not extinguished. Somalia continued to make a considerable progress across ambitious and challenging reform agenda. We cannot do so alone. We are grateful for the support of international partners and their commitment to Somalia. This support will be most effective when it's delivered in line with objectives we have set out in our roadmap and when it's directed toward the Somali priorities. We look forward to continue to work closely with our partners to ally their support, build a rich and bright, prosperous future for Somalia. I cannot conclude my remarks without once again reiterating our appeal to the Security Council that the UN and its representatives have duty, even obligation, to respect their mandate and do not interfere in our internal affairs, and let the Somalis control their own destiny. We believe that collaboration with the United Nations on this basis is more likely to bring concrete, positive outcome. With the help of our partners, Somalia is on the right path to recovery from several decades of civil war and anarchy. The Somali government is committed to bringing political stability to the country and will take the necessary measures to maintain those hard-earned gains in accordance with our constitutional and international law. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Somalia for his statement. There are no more names inscribed on the list of speakers. I now invite Council members to informal consultations to continue our discussion on the subject. The meeting is adjourned.